Alright, so I'm back with another video. This is kind of before the announcement for next week, which is exciting. But I'm back with a Juggernaut Exsanguinate build. This is more of a proof of concept, but I wanted to kind of explore this a bit and just talk about what I found with it. And this is just going to be some T16 mapping footage in the background, kind of showcasing what it could do. But it's a really interesting concept, and it's combining physical damage scaling, which you find a decent amount of on the Marauder side of the tree, with the help of some clusters, and then the extreme tankiness of the Marauder side, meaning a lot of maximum life, and then the Juggernaut Ascendancy. Ever since the rework for the Juggernaut Ascendancy, it seemed really, really strong, really, really powerful. I wanted to explore that a bit more this league, so I spent some time on a Bone Shatter build, super high-end variant, with Stasis Prison, and then now with this setup, which is more of a spellcaster. I wanted something that was a strong mapper, something that could just kind of go around. I didn't really have to aim, and this was kind of the call. I have not played an Exsanguinate self-cast build before. This is all new, and basically it's Exsanguinate, and as you can see, I also have a Corrupting Fever in there. Now, it's not a full Corrupting Fever setup, it's just a 4-link, it's just for some additional damage. The main part of it is kind of to be that just pure Exsanguinate setup. That's the 6-link. What I found is that although the single target is lower than I want it to be, although in this case we do a physical damage reduction on this boss, and I'm still trying to figure out video recording stuff, so it's a little kind of lags once in a while. I found that it's very, very potent, especially against clearing packs and such. You just go around, it's usually like 1 or 2 clicks and the pack's dead. Because of chain on Exsanguinate, it forms a really, really big area in which it can actually hit, and that's, I know a lot of trappers have done that with like Seismic and Exsanguinate and such, and use Exsanguinate for clear, but having it as a main skill actually feels pretty good, and especially on a chug. So I've tried a lot of T16 mapping with it. It honestly performs overall pretty good. This isn't max gem levels either, and the gear is very, very cheap. So I've spent, I think, 3 or 4 divine, I want to say, maybe 4 divine max, I think with like a flasks and things like that, and it's just performed awesome. It's very, very low maintenance, right? You just dash around, you hit Corrupting Fever, and it stays up for most of the time when you're mapping, and that's about it. So it's overall really, really strong, and that's why I think it'll be a good contender for a cheap build. Now, I don't know if it's a good league starter or not, because the problem is that I don't know how you're going to level. You can get Exsanguinate decently early on, but the problem is the damage. You'll have the tankiness through Juggernaut, but I don't know how you're going to get the power of damage, so that's something to figure out. If you know how to level as such, like with a spellcaster kind of Juggernaut-y version, because there is some physical damage trees nearby to help you out, and just use the base damage of Exsanguinate and Corrupting Fever, you could probably get through the axe okay. Because once it gets to maps, and you more so even when you just get chain, the clear is really, really nice. So, again, been very, very pleased with it overall. What I'm kind of hoping for, at least, is, we're going to jump into the POE after this, is some other people to explore this and build on it, because I'm sure something like this already exists, so I don't know if I'm discovering anything new, probably not, but what's important is that the cheapness of this is recognized, like how fast you can get started on a low budget and such, so that's kind of the main purpose here. So I'm going to go and hop into the POE and then talk about the build from there. So this is going to be going over the POE and what kind of stats that we have, what we need to get here, and what we would upgrade in the future. So currently we have a lot of armor, 80,000 armor, and the nice thing about this is that I have all my flasks checked, but because we had the 3 charges gained when hit by an enemy, it's basically perma uptime when mapping, which is fantastic. And so you end up getting a lot of armor, just a little bit of damage, some speed, chaos res, just some general stats that really help out a lot. Because now with the Juggernaut rework, armor here, when it gives us the additional, like as in your armor applies to fire, cold, and lightning damage taken from hits, the more armor you get, the more elemental damage, like elemental damage reduction that you get on top of your res. Now, I would have liked to fit in max res, like through this wheel here, right? And this would help a lot for, you know, just taking a lot less elemental damage, but for me, I prioritize other things. I might be in the wrong here, but just something to explore. Because definitely if you could stack a lot of max res and get a tanky that way, that's great too. But this felt pretty good on its own. So basically what we went for on the tree is a lot of life. As you can see, we have 185% increased life. So we have 6.2k total life, which is pretty good, especially with a magnate, but I'll go over in the gear in a second. So we're kind of missing a life slot there. And then we also have a brutal restraint as well, instead of maybe like a lethal pride, something like that. But this is to help fill some dex requirements, but it does give us some useful stats. So we went for a lot of life and fizz. We skipped this fizz wheel here. This would be totally fine to get. I just wanted to spec it into cluster jewels and get this rolling so that way I could get some extra jewels in here. But totally, like when you're leveling, starting out, etc., this would definitely be a good wheel. It might even be worth specking into now, like for my next levels, but I'm already level 92, so we'd have to see on that. So you want to get a lot of physical damage, stuff under clusters. These are only 2 passives, so even though they're 8 passive skulls and they have 2 notable passives, you can get 3. That'd make it a lot better. I just want to, again, keep it on the cheap side. I rolled this one and this one on my own, just using Harvest. If you roll physical damage a couple times, you'll get something decent. I think I rolled it like 7 times, something like that, each one on average. So not that much. Looking for 2 passives, that's all. We're not going anything for anything crazy. Master the fundamentals, battle hardened, great stuff. Getting more life. We have Call to Arms just in case for Enduring Cry if we really need it. I really haven't found that it's a problem, really, because here's the thing. For Enduring Cry, this is when you realize you didn't even have it in the build because it's that OP. Yeah. No, but we're gonna leave that in because in the video, because the thing is that my reasoning for this is to have Enduring Cry in the build. However, as you saw in the footage, that's saying what I'm realizing now is it's not even in there, and I forgot I even spec this, but I had the thought during the build to spec this in and use it, because it's a good way to generate endurance charges, give a burst of regen. So that's absolutely something you could do for 1 point. I think it would be awesome. So definitely would recommend that. So that means it's even tankier than what was showcased, which is awesome. Otherwise, yes, get some more stuff. Try to fit in a lot of auras. Herald of Purity, Determination, Pride, Warbanner, just shoving a lot in there just for more physical damage, and then also armor, which is great. We also have a Brutal Restraint, which gives us 5% chance to gain a Frenzy Charge on kill, which is awesome because when you're mapping, it's basically perma uptime and gives you a whole chunk of damage, smooths out the clear speed as well, just because you're getting more cast speed, which is really nice. And then otherwise just gives dex. This one's a cast speed, the rest are useless though, like this one's projectile damage, that doesn't help us. Blind, we don't have any, I mean we have a little bit of evasion, but it's not enough to really do anything. And 20% increased damage with poison, so not bad at all. For Brutal Restraint, just get a notable that you like, or notables, as many as you can get, of course, but it's mainly there just for the dexterity. Okay, so we're stacking a lot of life. Definitely pick up Iron Will. Gives us a ton of damage. You get access to this life over here, which is fantastic. Kind of move all the way up with the tree life aura stuff. Nothing really too complicated because it's just all kind of revolves around the same theme just to get us going. For gear, we have cold iron points, just jack up the physical spell skill gem levels for everything, which is our Exsanguinate, and then also all of our auras as well. That's really important. Jacking these up by an extra 6 levels, which is really nice. So you're increasing Exsanguinate, but then you're also increasing all of these as well. My gems are not fully leveled, as you can see. I have a 21 Exsanguinate, but you could get these up. And power get to level 4, that's adding a good amount more damage. Get some awakened gems, etc. There's a lot you can do there. Corrupting Fever adds a little bit of damage, right? Like 174k, but definitely nothing to write home about. It's just there because we have the extra sockets. What I want to talk about, though, is this, because I'm kind of glossing over these just because I'm going to leave the POE in the description. This is really important. So having a castle damage taken set up with Purifying Flame and Void Sphere is really nice. And not many people use it, but it's really nice if you have open gem sockets, because it gives you Consecrated Ground, because it's proccing all the time, and it's not a life tap setup, so it's not like you're not worried about mana. It gives you Consecrated Ground, so you heal a ton. And because you're a Juggernaut and you have 15% increased life regen right here from Hardy, and then you also have another 40% from Untiring, you heal, it's like 9%, I think, like of your max life per second, something like that, from just standing on this ground and shooting all over the place. So it's pretty easy to stand on, like you'll just do it passively. I don't think about it when mapping, and I'm usually just on top of it. Additionally, Void Sphere, long cooldown, but two things. One, hindered, 33% reduced movement speed, gives you more time to kite if you so choose. I'm not really kiting because the build's tanky enough, but if you want to kite, this is awesome. But what's even bigger is that it consumes the corpses of any enemies which die in its area. This is important. What does this mean? No on-death effects. So if this thing's up and it dies within the area, it doesn't have to be through the Void Sphere, because Void Sphere damage is pretty low. Let's take a look and see how much it is. We are hitting for a massive, oh yeah, 400 damage. That's awesome. So yeah, that basically just acts as, hey, clear all the corpses in the area, which is awesome. Have a Molten Shell on left click for some additional armor. Vulnerability, Curse on Hit Ring, fantastic, great for mobs, just for reference. Turn this off, gain a ton of damage versus non-bosses, and that's generally because of the Vulnerability Curse. It gives you a lot more damage taken for the mobs if they're not bosses. I'm just setting it for boss config just to kind of show, you know, what you're expecting. One thing to note there, in case I get called out on this, but you don't have 3 stages because your cast rate and blah, 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 right? It's only 2, you know, you're only getting 2 because then it runs out. Due to skill effect duration, I'm keeping it at 3. Only reason being is because I mean, just for me, I kind of like to keep everything the same. As in, like, what could I get at max stacks, right? Instead of having to remember, like, why do I have it at 2 or 1, etc., right? So your normal DPS should be probably like around here, right? And then plus Corrupting Fever, so it's like around almost 1 million or so. But since I have like shrines, things like that on my map, and I actually took off the Divine Shrine in the gameplay video just to show that, hey, you can tank stuff and you're just fine. You know, then you can get like Echoing Shrines, Accelerated Shrines, and you might be able to actually hit this 3 stages. More cast speed would be nice, but again, definitely not mandatory. It would be something that I personally would work on just because it feels nice, but it's definitely not needed. So yeah, that's kind of the overall view of skills, tree, items. You know, we have our Cold Irons that really jacks up our physical skill gems. I know I went a bit off of a tangent there. Here's some rare gear. Just going to kind of go down, nothing special. Physical damage leeches life is important. Definitely get that. Otherwise, I'm just kind of scrolling down, lightning res. The implicits are not that great. These boots aren't that great in general. Eternal Struggle, this is just for stats. That's about it. If you can fix your stats, the coal's nice too. But if you can fix your stats, I think you can find better amulets. Vulnerability on Hit Ring, life res. Most of these are just life res. Enchantment wise, I will mention, I took 40% increased damage for a single target. You can get like Chain though if you want, which is pretty good. So no problem there. Magnates for damage as well, and it's just a cheap option. Feel free to replace this whatever you want. Again, this is just kind of a chuck it together setup. You can totally expand or do whatever you want on this. Watcher's Eye, increased physical damage. It's just a 1 statter, that's it. Brutal Restraint, went over that. And then just some spell damage, cast speed, maximum life jewels, which it's like, whoa, that's a 3-stat jewel. That's a lot of stats. Well, the thing is that these aren't necessarily like super expensive because you can get a lot of things to replace it, right? You can get max life, you can get like spell damage when dual wielding, you can get increased damage with fizz, global fizz, increased damage. Like there's a lot of stuff that substitutes in. And the cast speed is just an extra nice cherry on top, so it's not that rare to see. Like here's an example: spell damage, then spell damage will do wielding with max life, right? You can get, and you can craft these too with fractured jewels, etc. I just bought these. These are like 10s of C a piece. I think my most expensive couple of these were like 50 C, so not too bad at all. And granted, this is the end of the league too, so who knows how prices are. Flash setup, all that stuff, and that's about it. You're just holding down left click, you click right click, and that's about it. Pretty simple build. Really wanted to just show off this concept though. And yeah, that's basically it. This video is longer than it should be, but I just kind of want to go through, point out a couple key things, and that's about it. So we'll see what the next video is, but I'm excited for next league. Hopefully got some good stuff in store. So thanks for watching, and catch you guys later. Peace.